Okay, here we have a graph, and then I've got a column of questions about this graph. So it says, what are the function values at 0, 3 pi over 2, and 3 pi? So what they're asking for are the y values at 0, 3 pi over 2, and 3 pi. And that, you know it's a y value because of this f of something. So f of 0, if we look at our graph, f of 0 is 4. F of 0 is 4. We look for 3 pi over 2. The y value there is 0. So f of 3 pi over 2 is 0. And then if we look at 3 pi has a y value of negative 4. So that's what they're wanting in part A. For what values of x does f of x equal negative 4? So this is asking the opposite. Here we have what the y value is, and they want to know what is the x value. What x value gives you negative 4? So we're looking for anything in the graph that would give you a y value of negative 4, and we see two of those. So I've got two answers. X is pi, and x would also be 3 pi. List the intercepts. Now, it doesn't say whether it's x or y intercepts, so we're going to list both. I've got one y-intercept, so it's crossing the y here at 0, 4. So that's one of my intercepts. So that's my y. And then my x-intercepts, I've got several of these. It's crossing the x-axis 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So we're just going to list those 4 points. So my x-intercepts are pi over 2, 0. And 3 pi over 2, 0. And is this 5 pi over 2, 0. And here's 7 pi over 2, 0. State the domain. So this is a list of all the x values in the function. Now this function has endpoints. So if it had arrows on either end, I would say it goes forever left and forever right. So negative infinity to positive infinity. But this has endpoints, so it starts and stops. It starts, and we always use x values to describe the domain. So it starts on the x value of 0, and this function ends on the x value of 4 pi. So that is my domain from 0 to 4 pi. Now, since this function has endpoints, has points on those x values, we put brackets on them. If it was an arrow, we'd have parentheses there if it didn't touch. State the range. So range is the list of y values. So we use y values to describe the range. And so we're looking at what's my lowest y value in the function, that'd be negative 4, and what's my highest y value in the function, which is positive 4. So that is my range, and there are points at negative 4 and 4. So we put brackets on those because it actually touches at negative 4 and 4. Where is the function positive? So they want to know what x values give you positive y values, because that's saying where is y positive. When it says where, we use x to describe where. So where are the y values positive? That'd be this section, this is positive, and this is positive. Anywhere where the graph is above the x-axis. So these 3 sections. So we're going to list these sections in interval form. We're going to say from when x is 0 to when x is pi over 2, the y values are positive. From when x is 3 pi over 2 to where x is 5 pi over 2, the y values are positive. And from 7 pi over 2 to 4 pi, the y values are positive. However, we don't want to include pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, and 7 pi over 2 because they're actually touching 0. So they're not positive and they're not negative. So here's how we're going to list this, and I'll put another graph under it so you can see. So from 0 to pi over 2, let's just not put any parentheses yet. Then from 3 pi over 2 all the way to 5 pi over 2 is above. And then we've got 7 pi over 2 to 4 pi. And then we got to determine which of these points is actually above and which of them is 0. So 0 is definitely positive, so that's included, bracket. Pi over 2, though, is touching 0, so it's not positive, so we don't include it, parentheses. 3 pi over 2 is 0, not included. 5 pi over 2 is 0, not included. 7 pi over 2 is 0, not included. 4 pi is positive, it's above 0, so bracket. And then we just put union symbols between them. So the function is positive here, here, and here. How often does the line y equals 2 intersect the graph? So first, draw the line y equals 2 on your graph. So y equals 2 is a horizontal line going through the y value of 2. And it says how often does it cross? And we see it's crossing 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So the answer here is 4 times. How often does the line x equals 2 pi intersect the graph? We'll draw this line. This is a vertical line going through 2 pi. So here's 2 pi. We draw a vertical line, and we see it only crosses the graph once, so 1 time. Now we're going to do the same thing with a different graph. So again, this is asking for what y values do you get at 0 and negative 6. And at 0, we see the y value is 3, so f of 0 is 3. And at negative 6, we see the y value is negative 3, so f of negative 6 is negative 3. For what values of x, we're looking for x, does the y value equal 3? So we see in the graph that the y value is 3 twice, here and here. So the y value is 3 at 0 and at 4. So when x is 0 and when x is 4, the y value is 3. For what value of x is the y value 0? We see that 3 times. So we see the x value of negative 3 is 0, the x value of 6 is 0, and the x value of 10 is 0. So that would be for x values negative 3, 6, and 10. State the domain. Domain is the furthest left x value to the furthest right x value. So the furthest left we go, the x value is negative 6. So that starts my domain. The furthest right point we go has an x value of 11, so negative 6 to 11. And since there are points there, and it actually touches negative 6 and 11, we put brackets on that. When it asks for the range, we're looking at the y values. So how far up and how far down does the function go? So we start the negative direction. The smallest point, or the lowest point, is negative 3 for the y value. So negative 3 is the smallest y value. And then the largest y value is up here at 4. 4 is the largest y value. And since it actually touches those points, we put brackets. For what value of x is the function greater than 0? So this is the exact same question as over here. It's asking where is the graph positive? For what values of x? So if we look at our graph, the graph is positive all here where it's above the x-axis, and then again this little guy over here. So we've got from negative 3 on the x all the way to 6 on the x-axis, we've got positive y values. And then we've got from 10 on the x-axis to 11, the y values are 0. So we've got negative 3 to 6 and 10 to 11. Now negative 3 is not positive. It is actually equal to 0, so we put parentheses on it. And 6 is not positive. It's on the x-axis, so parentheses on it. 10 is not positive. It's 0. And 11 is positive. It's above the x-axis, so brackets. So that would be where the x values give me positive y values. How often does the line y equals 1/2 intersect the graph? So we're going to draw a line at 1/2. And it's crossing 1, 2, 3 times. So 3 times. How often does the line x equals 5 cross the graph? We draw a vertical line at 5, and it's crossing just 1 time.